Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Page Chewing Comics and Manga. This is Weekly Polls, also known as Pick of the Week, episode number 42. This is a podcast where we talk about pretty much, timely, up to date comics. I'm here with my friend Steve. My name is Mike. We're two guys that go into comic book stores and try to actually pull out single issues and keep up with the continuity the best we can. Sometimes it's a challenge, but we're also just finding brand new things as well. If you're joining us for the first time, we're getting back into the comics scene after not doing it for many years. We're enjoying it. We're having a good time. We have a few. Okay, there's something once in a while we don't always love what we pick, and there's other times when we're pleasantly surprised. So Steve, how was your week?
It's been really busy. I've had a very busy week, and I didn't get to all my books this week, and I think that's kind of happens too. Like, I'll grab a book and I won't get to it that week, and it'll be a week late on the podcast. So I like that you said timely, because it's not always exactly. Sometimes we're a week or two or three behind, but it's one of those things. So it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. In my case, I think today I thought I was only going to have maybe three, but I read two. I read three comics today, actually. One in the morning and then at 2 in the afternoon. So I was able to get a decent number ready to go here. Yeah.
Yeah, I always worry about not having enough, and then I worry about having too many. So it just depends on the week.
Oh, yeah.
So the first one this week is Sanction #1. This is by Mad Cave Studios. The cover grabbed my attention on this one. I didn't really know. It's obviously new series. So it is a whodunit murder mystery based in 1980s Russia. There's a body found, and there's a detective who's tasked with solving the mystery. And you quickly know, because it's 1980s Russia, that there's some shenanigans going on, and our detective is faced with more than just a murder, which murder by itself would be enough to have to deal with. So there's a lot of setup here for some intrigue and some maybe political intrigue or government shenanigans, obviously. So. The art wasn't my favorite. I think there's a certain style of art that's just really bold lines, and there's not a lot of detail in faces and bodies and backgrounds, and it just depends on color to fill it in. I know it's a style. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just not my preferred style. I'd like more of the detail. So it wasn't the greatest, but it was fine. The story does feel a little bit familiar. There's a few things that happen that are a little too convenient that move the plot along, but otherwise it's fine. I'm not in love with it. It's not the best issue I've read, but it's fine. So it'll be a last minute decision when I see #2 on the shelf. If I'll pick it up. So I didn't hate it, but it was fine.
Did it have a lot of like Cold War type of vibes?
A little bit. I mean, I think it's hard to not have that in Russia, especially that time period. But you definitely get the weather and the propaganda and all that. So you definitely feel like you're there in 1980s Russia. Well, obviously I've never been to 1980s Russia, but I imagine that's what it feels like. So yeah, I think it does capture that feeling, but you can't really have a story about 1980s Russia without having some kind of government interference, right? There has to be something going on with the government. So
yeah. It's definitely intriguing. I will share with you that I studied Russian for 2 years, but I barely remember any of it. But I can read the Cyrillic alphabet a little bit, but not very useful. So I'm going to kick my list off here with Ultimate Spider-Man #4. And Steve, I know you covered #1 through 3, and I finally caught up with you and maybe went ahead of you this time. And I will just briefly say overall, I'm happy with the series. I think Hickman, who's the writer, is doing some interesting things, and I was going to say, um, kind of jerks us around in different directions. Maybe you think it's going one way because you know the story, and then is kind of pulling the rug out from under you. Like this is a case, where Uncle Ben is still alive, for example. So this issue, number 4, is focused on. It's like a double date issue. So you've got Peter and MJ and Harry Osborn with his. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but maybe but with his spouse, his wife. But that's kind of a surprise. I think either at the end of issue 3 or just the beginning of 4. So this I will say this series is not so big on the secret identities. So it's kind of like everybody kind of knows who's who. And I kind of like that. I think it's playful, and a lot of us probably, I was skeptical to think, am I going to like this? But there's enough things going on here that are just very different. In this case, the artwork is a departure from the first 3. There's a guest artist here. And I will say one complaint I had, there were some inconsistencies. Personally, for me, there's a scene where somebody's hair just doesn't look like hair. It looks anyway, but maybe that's just me. And I almost feel embarrassed saying that because I can barely draw a stick figure. But this is a character development issue. It's the series is moving along. I'm glad I'm taking this. I'm covering also. I've been covering in the podcast the Ultimate Black Panther. So now I'm doing the Ultimate Spider-Man. So I feel like I'm not so sure about X-Men, but
yeah,
I had to jump on the bandwagon because we were hearing that this is good, so I had to give it a try.
Yeah, I'm glad you gave it a shot. I didn't expect much from it, but I did enjoy the first 3 issues. It's not too serious, and it's kind of goofy. And I do like that they aren't really big on the secret identities because it always seems so silly.
Yeah.
Like I'll throw on a pair of glasses and nobody recognizes me. So no, I think it's kind of me of all people, or to say that, just kind of have fun with it. It's kind of goofy and funny and lighthearted, and it's really good. I'm bummed about the art though.
Well, I will say that it's great. There's just a few things where it just took me out of it. That's all. Yeah.
Jeez. So yeah, the Ultimate X-Men. I flipped through it and I don't know. It just didn't appeal to me. Yeah. I do like that they'll do something different with it, but when you name something Ultimate X-Men and it's complete, it just seems very out of left field. But I respect that they're taking a shot too. So it's just not for me. But I'm glad they're doing their thing. All those things. So the next one that I have is Spawn 353. I've been trying all the different Spawn books the last couple of months. This one, there's a vampire conflict that's taking place. That battle continues. I really like the artwork. It reminds me of the 1990s Image artwork. With that being said, some of the dialogue feels like 1990s Image, and not in a good way. Some of it seems very kind of goofy. It just didn't. It seemed it took me back to that time period, and not in a good way. One of the other things that surprised me a lot in this one is that they reference things that have happened in the early issues of Spawn, like the first 40 issues. And I realized that's like 30 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm not sure how much time has passed in the book because there's still characters in the book now that were there when I originally read it in 1993, 94, something, or 5, I don't know, whatever it was. So I don't know how much time has passed in the book versus how much time has passed for us, but it seemed a little, the timeline is a little murky because they reference a kid who was in the one of the early issues of Spawn, and now it looks like an adult. So I wasn't sure how much time has passed, but either way, it's fine. I'm not crazy about it. I've been kind of falling off the other Spawn books because they just didn't interest me, and like we've talked about, it's hard to keep up with everything we want to read. So I'll keep up with the main title. It's fine. I like the art. Hopefully something starts to kind of pull me in, but it was fine.
Yeah, I wonder if the dialogue is not what it's. I guess there's something to be said about being reminding you of the '90s in a not so good way, because I think there's something about nostalgia, but we don't want everything from nostalgia, or you know what I mean. I don't know if I'm explaining it well, but there's certain things that we remember, and it was a long time ago. It makes us think when we were younger, but yeah, not always that we have the good things that come back to us. So
I do think it's interesting that back then, a lot of the people who started Image, who kind of the pioneers, the really famous artists like Rob Liefeld, he was really big in the '90s. He was part of the pop culture. He's part of the culture. McFarlane, they were all high profile, and the writers were very rarely did you hear about a writer. And now it seems like it's the opposite. Like writers are more celebrated now, and artists are there's still some that are celebrated, but it seems like it flipped, and now writers are kind of on a pedestal. They're the driving force behind a lot of the creativity, which we're seeing in the books too.
Yeah,
that there's a lot more creativity going on.
Oh, definitely. It's a great point. So the next one for me is Gun Honey Collision Course, and this is from Titan Comics, #1. And let's see here. The author is Charles Ardai, and I believe he's written a lot of these types of noir-ish crime type of stories, because he has a lot of titles under his name, I believe. And one of the things that drew my interest was the cover artist is Sean Phillips. We know from the team with Brubaker. He's often collaborates with Brubaker. And of course, Ed Brubaker has a blurb on the front. So I was like, I'll give this a try. And I know Steve is a huge fan. I've definitely enjoyed, I haven't maybe read as much as you have, Steve, of the Brubaker stuff. But however, I have to say, this is volume #4, I believe. So there was 3 volumes with this character. I believe her name is Joanna. She's the gun honey, I suppose. And yes, it's got like a noir crime feel for sure. But for those of you, for people that are familiar with this title, this may not surprise you, but there is a fair amount of nudity. So like within page 2, there's bathing scene, and we see the titular character topless. And it comes.
Doesn't waste any time.
No, there was no time wasted. So if this is something, and I was thinking like, if this is something you're interested in, I didn't really page through it so much before I purchased it. But if it's something that you know the series for, you're going to get into it quickly. And it comes up again kind of at the end. So you get 2 scenes with a fair amount of time dedicated to it. So I struggled a little bit with the story because you're kind of introduced to her. I think it's her partner by the name of Brooke, and they've been like in hiding for a year in Indonesia. So they and I think one of the things that Joanna does as for a living is she sells arms. She's like an arms dealer. So she has a kind of an interesting backstory. The pacing I found to be sometimes challenging, but the story generally, if you're really into this kind of thing, it was hitting a lot of the marks or the right, pushing the right buttons, I think, story wise. There, I have to say, there is at the end, there's like, here's the story so far. They didn't have that at the beginning. So that was very helpful. I was lost until I got to the end. So going back to the kind of, I don't know if you call it, if it's gratuity or whatever, but there's 38 variant covers.
38?
Yes. With various versions of Joanna and various types of clothing or not so much.
Huh. Someone's buying them, I guess, right?
So I don't think I'll be. I don't know. And I it's not such a big deal, I guess. But I don't know if I'll be continuing because it's maybe not my kind of thing.
Yeah, I think when it's gratuitous or when it seems like just to have it there, it kind of takes me out of this. Like, how serious are they taking this? But I guess there's a tightrope you can walk and have both, but it's hard to pull off.
Yeah, actually, the word I wrote down was it's kind of distracting. Like it really is. I mean, yeah, it's just taking it's difficult to follow the story. There's probably 4 or 5 pages, but anyway, of nudity. And it's and really focusing on the female form and not so much on the male form. So that's maybe one-sided as well.
Yeah, it's tough. I think it's that's why it's tough to have both sides. And then there's certain types of books that's what they do. A lot of the, I'm not sure about it anymore, but way back when Zenoscope was more about kind of, like eye candy, and that's what they're known for. So when you would go in, that's what you expect,
right.
And I couldn't really take it seriously because that was their priority, is having the right angles and the right curves in the right place. So yeah, it's hard to have both sides, to have a great story and have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, hard to transition from Gun Honey, but the next one is a title I'm really enjoying. It's The Six Fingers. This is number 3. It is this, and the other one is The One Hand. They are 2 stories happening simultaneously, but from different sides. The Six Fingers is told from the killer's perspective, and so this book is violent, it's brutal, it's haunting, it's I guess it's pretty disturbing. But when you see the character, the journey the character's taken from the first book to now, and even still now, the journey he's taking, if you weren't reading The One Hand, you would have never expect all the other things happening, and vice versa. So I'm really enjoying seeing the cat and mouse game from the killer's perspective, seeing both sides of it at the same time. I think it's a really great idea. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this book. I love the artwork. There's a lot happening here than you kind of expect to happen. It's not just a straightforward, serial killer story. There's more happening. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. This was very nearly the pick of the week.
That's great. Sounds like that one's turning out to be maybe better than expected.
Yeah, I think I didn't really know what to expect, but yeah, I'm really happy with it.
Cool. So next up, I have Ice Cream Man number 39. This is from Image Comics, and we know W. Maxwell Prince from Swan Songs, and I have not read all the Ice Cream Man issues or volumes, but what I understand is that it's more of an anthology. So, and in this case, I did not feel like I didn't feel like left out or like I was missing anything in particular. So this one is subtitled "Decompression in a Wreck, Part One," and on the cover you have a family of four, essentially in a big car wreck, and their car is all busted up, and there's all kinds of stuff flying in the air, and it's like, oh wow, that really caught me. It's quite grim. That's actually putting it mildly, because the story is rather grim. It's a story of a car crash that takes place in the matter of 5 seconds, but it's almost like it's done in slow motion. So we see, each panel is maybe split second, but then it's there's of the four family members all kind of have either a flashback, or in some cases they think about their future or what may become. But it's not such a positive outlook for these four people. So that like from page 2. So this is not really spoiling anything. We basically know that they don't make it right from the beginning. So you're starting off like that. So you're starting to feel like, well, and the people are essentially having their life flash before their eyes, and yet that is referenced. That's not exactly what's happening, but it's a very interesting, and it's a different type of story structure. Maybe it just caught me off guard or something, and I do not mind the grim stuff, but this one might have been a little bit too dark for me.
Wow.
Which is hard to believe. The artwork is really good. I believe the artist is Morazzo, and no, I mean, I think this is going to be continued. It said part 1. I don't know where it's going to go after this, but I liked it, but I kind of made me feel bummed out a little bit.
I need to read it.
You can, and you don't need to have read the previous ones. So, yeah.
Well, after reading Swan Songs, I'm excited to read more prints.
Yeah. And just because it says Ice Cream Man, it's not really making that character is not making appearances so much. So I don't even know if you need to know who that is so much, by the way.
I need to read it now. I'm going to go grab it.
Yeah, I think you should. Love to hear your take on it.
So speaking of, we talked about the six fingers a few minutes ago. Now the other end is the one hand, number 4. I'm really enjoying the story too. Like I said, the cat and mouse, the back and forth. And if you were just reading the one hand, you would have no idea all the things that are happening on the other end with the 6 fingers. And that's what's great about it. And I kind of wondered if this is the best way to read it simultaneously, or if it's better to read one and then read the other one. But I am really enjoying seeing things happen like in real time, I guess, like seeing the same scene happen, but from different perspectives. So yeah, it's really, really great. I love when we do get a crossover between the two characters and see what they're both thinking at the time, or what's happening on one side and the other side. It's really great. This one also got a little bit more philosophical than I expected it to be. It's raised some questions, but not in a pretentious, I'm smarter than you kind of way, just kind of throwing questions out there. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm a sucker for the old grisly you know, jaded detective story. Just they had me at that. It is also disturbing with a touch of horror that keeps it dark. So the both books are very dark, but yeah, I'm loving it. Another one that was really close to being pick of the week.
But you do have to read both to understand what's going on.
I think you could read them by themselves, but I do like that you see both sides. So if I was just reading the one hand, then I would have no idea what was happening. There's a few scenes that they cross over, so you see what's happening on the other side. So it's really cool to read one perspective, and then you go and read the other book, and it's like, oh, that's what was happening for the other person. I'm trying not to say too much, but there's almost, it kind of gives you the heebie-jeebies, but in a good way, because you see what the other person was seeing or experiencing, and you have that crossover. So yeah, I think it's great. It's such a good idea.
Yeah, it's very intriguing. Well, next for me is this is a shared universe. I think people have been following the podcast have been reading Geiger, and although you maybe couldn't tell by reading this, I read Rook Exodus, which is the same author as Geiger, Jeff Johns, but a different artist. And I think his name is Jason Fubak. Maybe saying that wrong. It's so okay. This is the main character is basically like this. It's called a warden. So it's a futuristic planet called Exodus, and I believe people evacuated Earth to come to this planet. If I understand, it's a terraformed world. So very sci-fi, futuristic, but this world is kind of like dying. It's like a dying world. So the wardens and the main character has got this like kind of crow helmet on, and he's able to command and kind of, I guess he can read the minds of birds. And there's other characters that have similar kind of abilities that I guess they're also wardens. So basically, in this planet, I think I'm getting it right. It's a little bit confusing. Maybe it's just me, but this planet Exodus is where is it? For whatever reason, humans really need to control nature, or they're trying to. It doesn't seem like it's going so well, and so many people have fled the planet, and they've either gone to Earth or gone back to Earth. I'm not totally sure, but so it kind of basically feels like water is drying up. The crops are failing. On this planet, and so you get this kind of very foreboding sense of like end times. And the artwork is excellent. It's kind of sepia toned and really fits the mood well. It's just that I just don't know if I'm a huge fan. I like when I was younger, I really liked animals. Something about it is just a little bit off for me. I don't dislike it. But I'm curious at what point this is going to converge with Geiger. Maybe I can see it happening, but it's definitely interesting. It's certainly it was not my pick of the week, but it's it's surprisingly good. So it's just if you're an animal lover, I think you'll get into it. And it's a different take on like abilities, I guess. So, interesting.
Yeah. So do you have to? So it hasn't connected to Geiger yet, but it's part of the universe.
There's no clear indication that it's connected, but it has been sold to us in the previous issues. There's been a lot of advertising and image, and there was a book that I read maybe a month and a half ago that was like this issue of all the new shared universe, and this was one of the characters, Geiger, and Red Coat, and all these other characters. I actually got this one from the library because I just kind of wanted to follow and see what happens. So this is the one case where I did not physically pick this one up.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm on the fence with shared universes for indie books.
Yeah.
And I get the desire, the draw of having a shared universe, because then you can have it spawns, several books, and then you have it could improve your chances of being adapted or later on, gaining more popularity. But I think having a single book, and we talk about this with Spawn sometimes too, or other. I think there's a point where you have too many books and you stretch a character too thin, and it just loses its density, loses its kind of its impact, because when you have too much of it, sometimes too much is, sometimes it's what is the all things in moderation, kind of thing. So
I will say one thing, as you were talking, it made me think. In the case of Geiger, I've been following that story much longer, and I actually have more invested in the character. I know the character much more. In these cases, I don't really get the feeling that I know who is who. So it's like you've had a whole volume of this glowing man Geiger, and then they're introducing all these other things. Anyway, something about that's, I don't know. I'm not so sure how I feel about it.
Maybe they'll pull it off. Hopefully. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of John's because, from what I've heard. Let me put it this way. I'm not the biggest fan. He doesn't seem like the nicest person. Oh. But as far as his storytelling abilities, he is, I mean, he's put together some really great stories. Yeah. So, if anybody can do it, it'd be him, I would guess. As long as he's not making movies. Maybe that's the difference. I've heard stories. But anyway, so for my pick of the week this week, it's one that I think surprised me quite a bit. So I was in the store, I was looking at some books, and I saw Doom #1. And the cover looked, I thought it was one of those the Marvel's been doing, or was it Marvel? They've been doing the reprints of the older titles. I thought it was a reprint because the cover reminded me of a book from the past kind of thing. It just looked like it was a reprint of something. So I grabbed it, I flipped through it, and I love the artwork. I thought the artwork was great. It's very dark, lots of detail. The colors are they aren't vivid, but they're enough to really grab your eye. It has that like dirty look to it. So yeah, the artwork, I saw the art and I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. I didn't even realize it was a one shot until after I finished it. So what's going on here, and I'll try not to give away too much because it is a one shot. And also I saw Hickman's name on the cover, so that was another thing that drew me in. Oh. So for this one, without giving too much away, the setup is that Earth and everything on it is gone. Galactus destroyed it, and Doom is one of the two survivors of this event. Doom was trying to stop him from doing this. And Galactus is one of those characters that it's a really neat character, but Galactus is so powerful that it's hard to do a whole lot with him because it's this giant space god that goes around eating planets. I mean, it's hard to, what kind of story can you write with something so powerful? They managed to do it here. Doom manages to face off with him. He tries to stop him just like all the other heroes and villains do on Earth and beyond. And Doom has this final battle with Galactus, and it was, I don't know, it was kind of touching. One of the first pages was time ticks faster when you're on borrowed time, or something like that. So right away, it kind of sets you up for this very kind of a touching story. I was surprised. It kind of pulled my heartstrings a little bit. So yeah, another great thing about this book is you don't need to know all the continuity. You don't have to know what's going on right now in the Marvel universe. As long as you know the basics, you'll be fine. You know about who Doctor Doom is, you know Galactus and Fantastic Four and things like that, you'll be fine. So yeah, I really love that about it too. And yeah, it held its own. It was a powerful story, a great one. I'm so glad I picked it up. I would have never expected it to be this good because I'm not a huge fan of Marvel books right now, but knocked it out of the park. I mean, the artwork, the story, the writing, everything was really, really worked. And I'm so glad I gave it a shot. So that is my pick of the week.
Now I'm wondering if, so this is not Ultimate. This is not the Ultimate World because it's the same author. Hickman is the same author as Ultimate Spider-Man.
That's right. Yeah. No, it was a one shot because I went back because I thought, is this a series? At the end of the book, it's not. The end isn't what you would expect a first issue to be in a series. So I thought, well, where are they going to go with this? And I looked, and it was a one shot. Okay. It's a giant one shot. So, yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised. I loved it. It was like one of my favorite books of the year. So
that's amazing.
Really good stuff. Wow. Yeah.
I saw it today, actually. And for whatever reason, I didn't go for it. So I'm glad that you did.
Yeah, if I wouldn't have flipped through it and saw Hickman's name out, I'd be like, oh, yeah. But the art just drew me in.
That's great. Yeah, so for my pick of the week, and it's not a strong pick of the week by any means, but I am enjoying this series. It's Napalm Lullaby, number 3. Let me just say we get an idea of what the napalm might be in this one. So that may pique your interest if you were wondering. But we do get I will say we do get a lot more insight into this neo-fascist, like religious leader and the world that, the populace is drawn to. But our heroes are trying to, infiltrate or potentially, put down this regime, if you will. But we get a lot of, understanding of how this, I believe it's like a god or a son of God, but is also the, certainly parallels with Jesus Christ, I guess, but completely like, kind of puritanical beliefs of how the population needs to kind of be controlled. So this is really some, pretty big swing here in getting into this world and world building. So that, and just for that reason, I really appreciated it. And the artwork is extremely vibrant and colorful, and I'm continued to be impressed with the artwork as I was from the very beginning. One thing I will share is there is a reference to our world. So when we first started reading it, we weren't sure. I won't say what that is, but if you were wondering, I will have a question for you, Steve, maybe a little bit later after we finish the recording, because I don't want to give it away, because there was maybe one or two things I just didn't understand. But overall, this is, Remender is doing a great job, especially with the Sacrificers. I think we're loving that series. This series is shaping up to be potentially interesting. I could see it turning some people off, possibly because there could be some political, themes here as well. But for me, I'm really enjoying it.
Nice. It's hard to go wrong with Remender.
Yeah. So I don't know how many issues this is going to be, but I think when we first started reading Napalm Lullaby, we were like, "What is this world? It's so strange." But we're getting more and more, and it's coming in drips and drabs. It's not. This one wasn't like breakneck speed or anything, but there is some interesting things that happen here, and a lot more kind of action and violence in this one. And not very optimistic, actually. Not very optimistic for these people at all.
I think you almost need that, right? You almost need there to be some insurmountable odds to make you worry about the characters, to put it in doubt, to make it feel like they have to really accomplish something. Otherwise, it's like you don't have that concern for them, or it doesn't feel as significant for them to reach where they want to go.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, so that was issue 42. There's always there's a few books left that I haven't gotten to yet, so we'll get to those next week. And if you'd like to connect with either of us, we can be found on the forum, pagechewing.com. Join our forum. There's a link there, or you can go pagechewing.com/forum. Come and play blackjack with us. Come and read some books. We are trying to get Swamp Thing, the Alan Moore Swamp Thing group read figured out. So if you'd like to join us on that. After that, I believe we have a few other things lined up. I'm not sure what, but there's a few other books.
Awesome.
I believe From Hell we were talking about, and some other stuff. So come by and say hello. There's also a fan mail link in the description where you can write a text message to us and tell us how dumb we are. So you can use that feature as well if you'd like to connect with us, or send us a DM privately on the forum and just say hello. We're always open to suggestions or feedback. If you have any, just be nice. So yeah, I hope everyone's having a great week, and we will talk to everyone very soon.
Bye-bye.